Hello guys, that's me, Robbie Cookers from bestenglishfiction.com, and obviously my main blog is englishharmony.com, and I also run a blog called accentsventure.com and easyidioms.com. So that's about it. I have 4 blogs, and this is my latest project, bestenglishfiction.com, where I'm going to review English fiction and also the odd movie every now and then, whenever I get a chance to watch some movie. But it's quite a rare occasion because I'm quite a busy person running my websites, providing customer support to my customers, and also attending my 9-to-5 job, obviously, But anyhow, let's stop beating around the bush, and today I'm going to talk about the Gone series. And this is the first book in the series, Gone, and obviously the whole series is named after the first book. And obviously the tomes are very thick, and they're quite fancy looking, and these are all the books in the series: Gone, Hunger, Lies, Plague, and Fear. And I have all of these books. I'm currently reading the second book in the series, Hunger, right? And I have the other, all three remaining books, obviously: Plague, Lies, and Fear. Brr, be afraid, be very afraid. I'm just messing with you guys. Anyhow, the author is Michael Grant, and as you can hear, I'm a foreigner English speaker, and on this website I'm obviously going to review books and suggest books and English fiction that is quite easy to read and to comprehend for the average foreigner out there, because I don't really suggest you start reading some very, very fancy literature that you find very difficult to understand. That would be very, very written in a very sophisticated manner, using loads of vocabulary that you just don't know, and then you'd have to translate every second word, and it makes for a very, very difficult comprehension, and basically all the entertainment factor is totally removed from your reading process, but reading is here to be enjoyed, my dear friends. It's not about just cramming some content into your brain or doing it in order to improve your English or whatever. I'm reading because I'm achieving 2 goals at the same time. I'm constantly improving my English, and secondly, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying every single book that I read, and currently I'm on the second book, Hunger. Basically, the basic concept is what has happened. This is dystopian fiction. I would put these books in the same category as dystopian, but dystopian is normally set in the future, and that would be some post-apocalyptic world where some disaster has happened, and then people have survived, and it depicts life in those settings in future, in 100 years time, 30, 50 years time, whatever. But these books are set in these days, in modern times, in these days. But what has happened is all the adults have gone. They've disappeared. And there's this town called, what is it actually called? Perdido Beach or something. You see, it's a very, very strange thing. I'm on the second book now, right? I'm after reading the first book. I'm after reading, it's a typical Irish expression, by the way, so don't mind me, please. The people elsewhere in the world, like in the States or Britain, wouldn't probably understand this particular grammar concept, I'm after doing something. It's a typical Irish thing, but I live in Ireland, been living in this country for the last 10 years, and that's how I speak. I adopt localisms as well, But anyhow, the adults are gone, and the kids are forced to form actually a new society, to figure out a way to run the society, be self-sufficient. And obviously the first book focuses on the fact that the adults are gone, and it describes events, what happens after, in the weeks and a couple of months probably, what happens after the adults have gone, or probably not even a couple of months, a few weeks. I'm not really sure of the time span, that one individual book covers. Could be actually as little as a couple of weeks, for all I know, because the hunger obviously sets in only in the second book, and obviously you wouldn't have to wait too long before hunger sets in. But then again, they were actually surviving on stockpiles of fast food, to be more specific, you know, on hamburgers, frozen type of food. And one guy actually walked into a McDonald's restaurant one day and claimed it as his own and started serving burgers, and he became this business type person. And in the second book, he's got all these plans about reintroducing money into their society. And it's very interesting, you know. But basically, in the first book, adults are gone and kids can't figure out what's happening, why they're gone. And at the same time, they discovered that they've actually developed some freak powers, some mutant powers. You know, the closest thing to that would be the X-Men movies, you know, where all those mutants have certain powers. And the main character in this series is a guy called Sam, and he can basically burn things. It's all focused on their hands. Basically, if you want to do something, you have to use your hands and focus your mind to the object, you know, and then you have to imagine that you're doing that thing. So whether your power is to burn things, you have to kind of point your hands at your object, and then Sam can, for instance, shoot like literally shoot fire out of his hands, like laser beam, and then the object just melts and burns. It causes the object to basically, even if it's metal or stone or whatever, he can burn through anything, you know. It's like some sort of a welder. I'm not really good at these specific technical terms. Welder's torch, not welder's torch. You know, welders use these things they weld metallic parts together with, you know what I mean? But I've seen like blowtorches, and they're fed by oxygen supply, and basically the temperatures that can be achieved by those is in a couple of 1,000 degrees, you know, so they can actually burn through metal and things like that, you know. So Sam's power resembles somewhat that torch thing, you know what I mean, the oxygen fed flame or whatever it is. I'm sorry guys, but I'm not really knowledgeable in very technical terms, because my English, your English, is all about what we do, and I'm not a mechanic. I've never used one of those things, you know. I've only seen it probably on TV or in real life, but I've never actually had to use the terminology. And that's that's how your fluency actually happens. You can speak fluently about things that you speak about on a daily basis, on a regular basis, and you cannot be expected to be able to talk about anything, you know what I mean? You don't have to be perceived as the whole fluency thing as being capable of speaking just about anything in life. It's just not gonna happen, you know? Ain't gonna happen, sorry. Not gonna happen. But come on guys, I'm drifting off the subject now. Basically, in the first book, Gone, kids discover that they have these freak powers, and then basically what happens there is Sam starts hanging out with a girl of his dreams, you know, that he would have never actually dared to approach previously in the previous normal life, you know. Her name is Astrid, you know, but now in the end they become a boyfriend and a girlfriend, obviously. And Astrid has a little brother, a five-year-old, yeah, and he's an autistic child. So basically, he lives in his own world that he turns out to be the most capable of all the mutants, you know. And all the mutant powers are graded from 1 to 5, 1 to 10. I'm not sure. You see these details, even if you read about them like 500 times in the book, you know, but it's become so self-repetitious that you can't actually put your finger on it. Whether it was from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, I'm not really sure. But anyhow, little Petey, it was Astrid's brother, was the most capable of all the mutants, you know. And then when they discover it, they're all taken aback by his powers, you know what I mean? But he's actually unable to focus all those powers because he's autistic. He lives in his own world. But which is most shocking is that underground in a deep cave, there's some sort of a creature living, you know, and it actually has an immense power to actually call to himself, and he starts speaking to certain people in their minds, you know, and calling to himself, and then there's this thing about that creature being hungry in the dark and it needs to feed. And then there's this power plant, the nuclear power plant, and there had been an accident 15 or so years ago, which was averted. All the radioactive fallouts had been cleaned out, but it turns out in the second book that it's not entirely the case. And I'm not going to reveal the whole thing, because if you're interested in this type of fiction, you have to start reading these books by yourself. But basically, the main concept is great. It's really, it draws you in when you start reading it. It's really a great read. You basically get to see what the world would look like if all the adults were gone. Kids would start running the place by themselves. Society falls apart, and then there's all sorts of frictions and rifts between groups of teenagers, and one is vying for power, and the other group, and then freaks are divided, and then there's this college where back in the day kids were sent, kids who had certain behavioral problems or who had had some problems with the law. They were all sent to that college, and now those kids are the bad mutants. Many of them are mutants, and they're the baddies. So basically, it's Sam and his bunch of mutants running the Perdido Beach, and then kids from the Coates Academy living up there and making all sorts of plans to seize the power. And then there's this creature living in the cave under the nuclear plant and calling certain people to himself because he wants to feed, and you can only guess what he wants to feed upon, and then all sorts of things, how kids figure out things, how to start running the society, how to kickstart the society again. As I told you, there's this kid who started running the McDonald's restaurant, and then he's trying to make plans on how to reintroduce money into the society, and then there's this gold supply that he gets his hands upon, and he starts making gold bullets. He actually casts gold bullets, and he coins a new term for that currency that they're going to have. Yeah, he's calling them bullets, I think, and then he's using McDonald's, some sort of vouchers or something, as the decimal units of those bullets, and it's very interesting. And then, obviously, in the second book, hunger is the common denominator. Everyone is hungry, and then the question arises: what would you be willing to do for a little bit of food? And kids are literally willing to do anything. They switch sides. One of the Coates Academy bunch kids switch sides and moves on to the Sam's team because he gets to see that those guys are catching fish, and he's looking at the fish, and his mouth is salivating, his stomach is grumbling and hurting so badly that he just doesn't think. He just tells those guys, "Listen, I'll tell you all I know. I'll do whatever you want. Just give me a little bit of that fish," And it's very interesting, Basically, these books are written for children, but they're perfect for the average foreign English speaker out there. And if you're a foreigner, if your English is generally good, your understanding is good, and you're looking for a fiction, for English fiction that would be right for you, fiction where you wouldn't have to look up every second word, and the language used is very, very, very simple, plain language, not too many specific vocabulary words. I'll just read you small excerpts. Quinn leaned into the truck, intending to sound the horn. She'd have to hear that. He froze when he saw the post-it note. He tore it from the steering wheel and read it aloud by flashlight. "Don't try to follow us," Quinn read. "I know what I'm doing, Lana." "Okay," Albert said. "Okay, now we have to tell Sam." Very, very simple language. Language you would hear in Hollywood movies, Language that is meant for masses, for the average consumer of English fiction, and it puts you into that category, my dear listener, foreign English speaker. And all these books, all these gone books, Plague, Lies, Fear, there's more surprises to come in them, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to enjoy them all. So This is the Hunger book. This is the Gone, first book in the series. So basically, if you're looking for great English fiction to enjoy, this is the thing you have to go for, guys. Gone series. Yeah! Bye-bye!